In many cases, it's just something that they do that's really selfish. Like one of the few things in the course of their week that's just all about themselves. And it could be that exposure to the social experience with all the other type A people. It could be there's one or two people in the class that they're really looking forward to sharing time with or spending time with. And, you know, I think that the whole notion of what we've been talking about in terms of community is a lot of things that happen in life where you end up doing something for money. Um, for a lot of people, it's completely accidental. I know so many people that went to school for whatever and got a BS degree in whatever, and now they're doing something completely different. And the other thing that I've always found interesting is that the people who get involved with weight loss that are very successful at it, like, I have a friend who in a year lost 120 pounds in 12 months. And guess what she started doing for a living after that? She was a trainer. She said, I've done all of this and I'm going to be really selfish about what I'm doing for a living going forward here. If I'm working in the gym, that ain't never coming back. So it was a life choice that she made and a very inspirational human being in terms of, when somebody walks into her space and they say, well, look at you. I mean, you look like, freaking model or whatever. She says, she whips out the picture. She said, yeah, I liked cake and ice cream. Buy a cake, eat a cake. That was always an in joke. But anyhow, any other thoughts on community that we may not have had an opportunity to touch on? I'd like to get into that in another podcast in the future. And anything you'd like to add, or any other stories or shares that you'd like to to impart to our generous listeners.
Yeah, I had one thing that just struck me earlier on. It was more a question. It's, you're talking about sharing light and, hopefully your light activates a light or somehow elevates the light in someone else. Who who do you choose to be when they are not ready to receive that light? And that can be an interesting thing. And even talking about like a weight loss advocate, they can be almost a little bit upset when someone doesn't produce the result that they're striving for, that they know would be so good for them. We've all had that. We passionately know something would be good for someone else, or we want them to receive our love, and so, and they're not in a place where they're ready to do that. It happens, you know. So who are you in that moment? And I think that would be an interesting. I wonder how much that question would help further dissolve, miscommunication and tension and, disappointment and all those types of things.
I think that's a really, I love that question because I think that if you're in the, especially if you're in the wellness world, I want to say, or health world, that's, I think, a really common question that, or at least most of the people that I speak to that work in the field seem to have. It's like, something would be really great for someone. And how do you step back and respect that? It's their choice.
Mhm.
And I always say that usually, and well, first starts with family because usually family don't listen to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you know, you
Yep.
know, so a lot of times it's, family members that you speak to or whatever, where you really know something would be really much better for them. Good
Right.
lifestyle changes, and they're like not going to listen to you at all. We used to joke that we're going to tell a friend of ours to talk to our family members because they're not going to listen to me, but maybe they'll listen to you. And been in that position where like friends would say, "Will you come over and speak to my kids for me?" Because they're not going to listen to me.
I have lost count of how many parents have said that to us over the years. They're like, you said the exact thing I said, but they heard it from you like they've never heard it before. And we always laugh. And, that's why we called ourselves a family ally because, so it's very, very true. And for the parent, there's such a fierce heart-based response to wanting to protect and guide and support and all those kinds of things. And then this frustration with not feeling that that's being received. you know?
And I
See,
think,
that's an important thing that you're talking about now, and that is everybody wants to be right. And if you can separate your need to be right from your need to make a contribution, then the who you can become in that instance is the who that they need you to be, as you've said many times before, Ken, by meeting people where they are.
Mhm.
And in lots of instances, it may mean that you have to make that your community so that whenever your loved ones are around you, they're immersed with other people that know what's good for all people. And sooner or later, their great ideas are going to become your loved ones' ideas, and then you couldn't keep them from it if you tried.
hmm hmm but I do
But
like Ken's
yeah,
original question, which is a great question. Like, who do
yeah.
you become?
So the
Yeah.
answer to that question is you become whatever your commitment level says you need to become to deliver the value of the transformation. And that means for most people having to give up on making a difference in this conversation, which is the hardest thing in the world to do, is to walk away when you feel like you're so close to somebody getting it
hmm
and then allow them the time for it to percolate and then come back and ask questions. That interest level that's genuine as opposed to being um, dazzled with the facts and the knowledge and all the rest of that sort of thing. It's when I would imagine, Jan, I can't picture you ever having a lot of weight on, or Ken for that matter. But I mean, I 20 years ago I was close to 300 pounds. So it's kind of interesting. People who haven't seen me for a little while, or have seen me, when I was actually lower than where I am right now, would come and ask a question, "What are you doing?" But I didn't go looking for them. And now I'm going to be spending time with both of you because you have identified yourself as someone that I can go to and I can learn from your expertise in terms of the physical side of what I'm doing and the daily movement. And yoga is something that I used to do a lot, 12, 15 years ago when I was recovering from having open chest surgery. Um, and it's something that's very, when I'm done doing yoga, I don't know if you guys feel this way when you do a workout. When I'm done doing yoga, my favorite part is to look forward to the cool down. That's my favorite part. I love going through the painful bits while I'm looking forward to the cool down. And I don't mind telling you, there have been times that I've fallen asleep during the cool down
Oh,
and
yeah.
woken up 10, 15 minutes later and gone, wow, that was worth that hour.
hmm hmm
Very common.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What you need, you know?
Jan, did you have any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I think that, I think that the practices, no matter the movement practice, I think there is a reason. I think when you get to the point where you crave it, like there
Yes,
is something that happens, some sort of shift, and it's that shift that draws you back in over and over again.
sure.
And so was having that conversation with a client the other day because I said that, it's like, and that's what keeps you coming back is that little glimpse of either, is basically like a state of mind or a state of being that you get in touch with that might have been elusive before, you know, on that day or just with everything that life has. And then you're like, oh, okay, I really want to get back to that space. So that's why, and that's what always drew me back in. And I think
Yeah.
that's draws seasoned practitioners, no matter the practice, back in. It's like this feeling that you get.
And it may not even be one that you were in touch with remembering until you actually experience it again newly, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh
Absolutely.
yeah, this is what I got out of this. Amazing stuff. Last thoughts, Ken?
Uh, just I think just on the like when I'm working and coaching people, we don't talk about weight loss or weight gain. We talk about body composition being a reflection of the practices that you implement on a daily basis. So, so if you think a little bit more conscientiously about your nutrition, you probably will see a reduction in fat. If you choose to add resistance training, you're probably going to see an increase in muscle, but you're not doing it to gain the muscle. You're noticing the how your physical being is reflecting back to you the
Yeah,
practices you're choosing. So, and it takes the stress again off of, can I see my stomach abs or, my bicep, or what does the scale say? It's how is the scale, a reflection of the practices that I'm focused on,
yeah,
and if I'm not seeing that reflection in the changes in body composition, and that's what I want, then what I should be doing is looking at the practices and modifying or adjusting them until I start to see that reflection. And
sure.
it was just an interesting thing, especially the idea of body composition, because BMI is not very accurate. Muscle weighs more. So saying you want to lose 15 pounds isn't accounting for the changes that occur when you drop body fat and add muscle. Hydration has there's so many things. So use the mirror, and use your energy levels and yeah, use the scale and all that kind of stuff. But those are just ways that kind of you can see how well your practices are resonating and your body's responding to them. So just a little
Terrific.
bit paradigm shift.
Mhm.
But where you put your attention is all important.
Yeah.
And your attention should be on something that you want to be paying attention to, not something that you is bad news for you every day.
Well, and you can't control how fast the scale's going to change. You really can't. I mean, not maybe a little bit, but what you can control is your daily practices. And you also can't control how scheduled and committed you can be because life.
Mhm.
So, but if you're thinking every day, if I deposit $1 or $1,000 into the bank, I'm making a deposit. So there's an accumulation that's occurring, and it doesn't have to be $1,000 every day. It just needs to be some kind of consistent deposit. And over time, if you have a zero deposit day, that's all right, because you've got a trend line now, so it's just, and again, now we're back to taking that stress out of the experience so that you're not actually damaging the value, the benefits that you're creating through the practices that you're implementing. So
Perfect.
And the words that come to my mind are self-care because
Mhm.
it's like this feeling of, I might not have the time, but that's where the paradigm shift to me comes in is the fact that you bring in that element of compassion for yourself of saying, okay, well, today was not the day because
Mhm.
whatever, I had a crazy day and there was no time,
Yeah.
and bring in that element of compassion for yourself when when life gets in the way or when you're not feeling well or whatever, and
Yeah.
just saying, okay, you know that's the way life is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had, like, for me personally, it might be a day where I was scheduled to run for an hour, to trail run for an hour, and I was fatigued and somehow didn't feel like doing it. It's not, I need to make that up tomorrow. It's, I probably need to sleep more tonight. I
Yes.
probably need to sleep in tomorrow. I need to pay, it's the self care. It's, if I'm feeling that bad about the idea of it and I couldn't get myself to do it, maybe I didn't need that right now. I'll run another day, but I'm not going to now feel like I'm behind somehow. I'm just
Hmm.
going to focus on giving my body what it needs, you know.
Love it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, thank you very much, community. It's been another awesome over an hour, but great conversation. Thank you for your energy, your attention, your commitment. And